SciVive Ch.4 Money. Capitalism. The economies of the United States and most industrialized nations around the world are based on a model of capitalism. In its most basic interpretation, under a capital system, private individuals own and control the means of production. This is in contrast to socialism, where the government owns and controls the means of production. In capitalism, consumer demand drives production and consumption. Capitalism gives consumers more of what they want and are willing to pay for, and less of what they don't want and are not willing to pay for. What people want usually isn't so great, because unfortunately, it is often not going to save anyone's life. Bigger houses, faster cars, more expensive jewelry. On your deathbed, how much of this is what you will remember as what was truly memorable? As an entrepreneur, you must choose. Do you want to get rich the easy way first, by giving people what they want, and then try to do good in the world, the Bill Gates method? Or should you take the harder route and get rich by making the world a better place along the way? Technology and innovation. Technology lets us do some cool things today that we couldn't do before. In Sweden, there's a program that if you give blood and your blood is used to save somebody, you receive notification about that. If rewarding good behavior begets better behavior, would you donate blood more if this happened to you? There is also an app called Be My Eyes that allows you to act as the eyes of a blind person. When a blind person might need to see something they need a description for, they can show it with their smartphone and let someone else tell them what their phone is looking at. There are other cool innovations, like utilizing an unoccupied car sitting in a parking lot. In a world that has the ability to transport people and goods, this reduces the number of cars on the road because we can all use the cars that are just sitting at rest in parking lots to do work for the world and move people around. Then you don't need as many cars. You could take the fewer cars that you have and get more performance out of them. That's why Uber is worth billions of dollars, even though they don't really own any cars. They've created a strategy whereby other people that have unused resources like cars, or like Airbnb did with housing, that were going underutilized. Now we can maximally utilize all that we've already worked hard to build and maintain. There are likely more industries that have underutilized assets that somebody is going to make a couple $2 billion off of finding a way for us to get more of what we already have. Let that person be you. The checkpoint is that if you were to restrict the pool to a small set of years that are introduced technologically and not through lifestyle and health change, people then would have to work on the technology. The benefits of the other side of that checkpoint are economic benefits by not having to pay for that last year of life, whose medical costs are equal to all the previous years of life combined, and the insane increases in proactivity by having the smartest, most effective, most productive scientists and researchers, the avengers of the world. What if Thomas Edison or Alexander Graham Bell were awarded a couple more years just to finish up those innovations they didn't complete? We could have had more scientific and economic benefit. The same greatness is expected of you. Utilize your extra years doing something positive for the world. Maybe you use one extra year of your life to say goodbye to your family and tick some boxes off of your bucket list. The funny thing about money is that if you properly get the most value from it and turn it into goods and services, you don't actually have it anymore. If you used it to buy a business, what you really bought was goods and services for other people. Really, all the cool objects that people want, that they need money to buy, they don't technically go in the money section, they go in the environment section. In theory, the belongings that you could own but not have in your environment would just affect your internal environment emotionally, knowing that you own them, even though you wouldn't be physically in their presence. Valuing income over savings. Some people are happy to get a 50% discount someplace where they're valued. Others are happy to say they get half off the planet because they've got twice the income. The importance of gratitude. Quote, "If you're so smart, how come you aren't rich?" Quote, "If you ain't rich, life's a bitch." Quote, "The difference between rich people and really rich people is that really rich people say no to almost everything." All quotes attributed to Warren Buffett. This is the world we live in today. Some people have lots, and some people have nothing. Think about how that occurs at the micro level. It goes as follows. You wake up in the morning, have a nice coffee and shower, and decide you're going to build yourself a nice addition on your house. Nope, you can't, because you have to build an addition on someone else's house instead so that you can buy food and pay your rent. You find that your days are almost constantly going to enrich the lives of other people instead of yourself. You don't really want more of what you can already do for yourself. You're probably bored of it by now. And you are in debt because you need so many things from everyone else around you. When enriching everyone but yourself, you wouldn't have the time in the day to pick your own food, water your own lawn, and take the kids to school. Imagine that you are the only person in the world, and you need to pick your own food, build your own shelter, make your own fires, etc. One day, you decide that you want to build a house, and in that house, you would like to have some furniture. How long would it take you to put it together? Perhaps you'd never have a house at all, but you'd give up and just try to find a comfy cave to stay in. Now, why is this interesting enough to even mention? You have to be more happy about what you have in this world. If you have lots, it's because you have robbed and starved other people of the fruits of their own labor, so you really should appreciate it. If you currently own, use, and benefit exclusively from items you couldn't have built on your own, you better get grateful. Someone else had to build for you instead of themselves, or you wouldn't have it, unless they died and left it to you. Money and power isn't everything. Check out the video of Barack Obama, while President of the USA, interviewing multi-billionaire Jack Ma, founder of Alibaba. Jack Ma says his biggest regret was starting Alibaba, the company that made him a multi-billionaire and put him in the center of the stage, with our president off to the side. Ownership. Why would you want to own anything that has periods of loss greater than 2 to 5 years? You would be better off not owning anything in that case, unless perhaps you're hedging. Business ownership versus solitary profession. Owning a business is an easier way for making lots of money than a solitary profession. The most solitary professions are also often the hardest to compete in. Since the most rewarded and powerful concept in the world we live in is the concept of ownership and property, then anything related to business, investment, and capitalism in general is aligned with that most powerful of principles. Thus, you kind of get to cheat the system a bit, because not everyone else is interested in taking advantage of the capitalist magic for themselves. This leaves you the free profit left on the table that they weren't interested in. So they go off and compete against each other in the dog-eat-dog areas of art or fiction writing or music instead of business. It's like going off to war with no guns or weapons and just going barehanded. Sure, you might be able to do okay, but it's much easier if you take a force multiplier with you. If you choose a solitary way to make money, you've left behind some of the easiest don't leave your force multipliers behind. Don't try to change the tire on your car without a jack. Don't try to skydive without a parachute. Don't try to get rich without ownership. The most successful solitary professionals, like novelists Stephen King and J.K. Rowling, create works that can be leveraged into mass-marketed products, such as movies. Productive land. A useful trait that buying productive land or companies has is that you're less likely to sell the whole asset off and more likely to spend only out of your profit than you are with a stock or other lump sum speculative instrument. It's harder to separate in your mind that you had a profit from a trade and that you should only spend the profit. You can also much more easily find yourself without any income or any gain, or having to sell off a little part of your business every time to create profit, because that's what it is. If your stock appreciates and you want to eat, you have to sell some of your stock. So you're actually constantly owning less and less of that actual productive asset that you own, which is the company, because you need to get money out to eat, and that's not beneficial. That's part of the reason someone might tell you that you need to use compounding interest, save forever, and never take anything out. One day, when you can't go back in time and buy back quality of life in earlier years, you have more money than you need. Yay! Now you have more than you need by going without for so long. SciVive is not very interested or excited about testing the limit of everyone's delayed gratification muscle. SciVivers would rather see you become excellent and make money by making the world a better place than sitting around letting compounding interest try to make up for your personal shortcomings. Go forth and kick ass. Forget about compounding interest. The $75,000 happiness myth. They say you need only make $75,000 a year to get maximum emotional benefit. Let's look at how inaccurate this number is. Do you have addictions like gambling and drugs? You need more money. Do you have kids and a trophy wife? You need more money. Do you live in a super expensive place like San Francisco or New York City? You need more money. Are you terrible with finance and have lots of debt you need to pay off? You need more money. Saving up for retirement? Is that 5 to 20% of your salary? You need more money. With all the variance between different locations, lifestyles, and luck, it seems pretty silly to slap $75,000 on the price tag and call it the price of happiness. How useful is this number to people living outside the United States? Not very. How does one see if the cost of living adjusted this? That would make it slightly better. How many people do you know that actually got rich only through compounding interest? Unfair world. If you look at anybody that's really wealthy and they have something expensive, that took many people a long time to build. Maybe it's a house, a car. It just kind of shows the unfairness in the world that 10 people had to sacrifice all of their time for the joy and benefit of one person. Why do they do that? It's a little bit interesting, albeit weird. Is it because he was here first? Stupid copyright law. Intellectual property is absurd. How can you own an idea and then own it 50 years after you are dead? Do you really need to own anything while dead? The mega corporations win every day while the public loses. Get rich slow. Let's be serious. If everyone that read a book on how to get rich acted on it and became rich, there wouldn't be many poor people in the world. The world has no shortage of get-rich-quick books, but you could say that the world does have a shortage of rich people. So how does this wide divide happen? You could say that reading a self-improvement book on its own doesn't do much. These types of books have been coming out for hundreds of years. People sell you on doing what they used to do, but not what they're doing now. You'll see that they found greatness the minute they stopped doing what they're trying to sell you and started doing what they're doing to sell you. They're selling shovels to gold miners, not mining for gold. You only hear about the fake, feel-good, no hard work methods of improvement Rarely will someone tell you that in order to be awesome and outcompete others, you have to learn the hard topics that you didn't want to learn in school. Some useful topics include statistics, the method of loci, and Excel formulas. It's not fun or pretty. It is the real world. The sustainable world desires facts and figures and feats of artistic excellence, all of which require time, effort, dedication, and a foundation of study that has real-world constraints and no shortcuts. No one buys the get-rich-slow scheme. What if they do? People are so disillusioned by the get-rich-quick schemes that if someone actually just told them step by step how to get rich slow, in 2 years, country-specific, if they don't want to read that information, the people who are actually willing to work to become rich will become so. Wealth velocity. Getting it now. The when. If you really want to make the world healthier, happier, and smarter, billions of dollars are going to need to be generated. It is difficult to make a genuine change in people's lives through for-profit corporations, and easier to negatively affect people's lives because there's more barriers to entry, which allows for profit. Everyone that has joined the Giving Pledge, they were reached out to by a man who tried and spent hundreds of millions of dollars in charitable endeavors. Transformative ideas cause absolutely gigantic multiplier effects in money you will never be able to achieve personally, no matter how hard you work. In case you don't know, the money multiplier effect means that for every dollar you spend, that's someone else's income. You are an agent, and you say to your construction crew, "Build my client's new house this week. I'm going to pay you on Friday." They reply, "We don't think you're going to have the money to pay us on Friday, so we need to get paid on Monday." So then you go to the person who's paying to get the house built and say, "I wouldn't normally need so much money up front, but everyone wants to be paid on Monday instead of Friday now, so I need more money up front." He replies, "It doesn't look like you've got control of your workforce. Maybe you pay them on Monday and the house never gets built, so I don't feel comfortable giving you the money now." And it just goes up the chain. That's the paralysis of this boom and bust cycle where you give away credit for free and then you constrict it. When it constricts, everyone goes into safety/security/savings mode, and then the money multiplier effect causes the money not to get spent. For every dollar that you give someone who's selling something to you, they now are very likely to spend roughly 80% of it. It's different in different societies. America has a very high money multiplier effect because we have a very low propensity to save. In China, they have a very high propensity to save, and therefore their money multiplier effect is lower. If you were to put $100 of your own money into building something in China, the net benefit to that economy would multiply less. It would turn over fewer times because it would get suctioned off into savings and buried in the ground, or whatever form of savings that they would perform. The funny thing about savings is that unless they just bury it in the ground, if they put it into a bank, the bank tries to counter-reallocate it. If you're in a country that has a big propensity to save, you're probably also of the mindset that you don't want to take additional loans, because that's the opposite of saving. Taking on debt and owing people money is the opposite of having extra money. In countries where people save more, those people probably also take out less loans, and thus are less likely to have exponential growth because the money multiplier isn't as strong. If people want to make a lot of money and get rich, they should get on the sales side. It's got exponential growth capacity, whereas cost savings and manufacturing difference do not have exponential growth capacity at all unless you combine them with the required sales increases. Penny wise, dollar foolish. Human beings treat large purchases with less care than they do small purchases, like the purchase of a house or starting a business opportunity or franchise, versus buying a new pair of shoes. Large purchase industries are the most ripe for unethical business tactics because the same unethical tactics earn you more than they would with lower ticket items. People usually spend more time investigating a $200 television purchase than they would a $200,000 house or a $200,000 business. This is because we do not properly allocate our conscious decisions on these giant, hard-to-understand numbers. A dollar saved is a dollar earned. A pound lost stays lost forever. SciVive likes these original quotes in function but not form. A penny saved is a penny earned, or penny wise, pound foolish. Linear expectations for constant correct behavior. Every dollar you save now, every dollar you save stays. Same with calories. Managing your expenses. New car, lease versus buy. The point at which a car goes down in value the fastest is when it drives off the factory lot, which makes sense. Why would you pay the same for a car that just drove off the lot when you could walk a couple feet farther and have a direct relationship with the dealer? When you lease a new car and you keep getting new leased cars every couple of years, you keep losing the maximum amount of value on the car because you keep paying for it during the period when its value is going down the fastest. You also pay the maximum number of transaction overhead costs and visits to the dealer, and time spent choosing which car and specs you want. Then on top of all of that, you're also paying extra interest on borrowing the money to pay back the loan that you got to pay for a car that is going to go down in value the fastest it ever will during its lifetime. Oh, and you've entered the gotcha, went over mileage, insane fees lottery, or other hidden fees lottery. And you have to have a higher spec of insurance sometimes to protect the leasing company's interest in your car. Thus, if you want to save money on a great car, you can own it when it goes down in value slower, after some other sucker has already paid to drive it off the lot for you. Another fun fact, if you buy a performance car, like a BMW M3, you can't even rev the engine to max during the first couple thousand miles because the engine is still breaking in. Why would you want to own a performance car during the period when its performance is crippled? Also, you're forced to do extra transactions after a lease, whereas if you own, you can just hold forever and skip the transactional costs and friction. Those little expenses can crush you. It's only $10 a month. It's easy to say that because you look at your total income and think, what's $10 out of $2,400 a month? But is that the right way to look at it? You have real bills you have to pay every month. So why don't we take that $10 out of the money you actually have available to you? Let's say you work 40 hours a week at $15 an hour. That's $600 times 4 weeks in a month. That's $2,400 minus rent at $1,200, gas at $200, phone $60, car insurance $100, food $1,500, and internet at $60. Now what you have left, after subtracting all of that, is negative $720. So it's really $10 out of negative $720. Uh-oh. You do pay taxes, right? So in the $30,000 bracket, you lose about 18% to taxes, which leaves you with only $1,968 a month. So it's really negative $1,152. If you spend $1,200 on rent and $1,500 on food, you've already gone over budget by 25% of your salary after tax. Now, if you never buy yourself clothes, never see a movie, never have to fix your car, never take a flight, never get a speeding ticket, never have any other expenses at all, you're already in debt $1,152 a month before you gave away the just $10. It's hard to show how important $10 is when you can't even divide it into a positive number, but are already in debt, so you have to just add it to your monthly debt. Let's say you only eat McDonald's meals, $6 a Big Mac. 3 meals a day for 30 days, that's $540. Let's say you get your rent down to only $800 a month. Now you're at $1,968, minus those expenses. That leaves you with $208. Just $10 is going to come out of the $200 you have left at the end of the month. If you never buy anything, ever, and only eat McDonald's meals, no desserts, ever. Oh, and we forgot electricity, water, garbage, home insurance, health insurance, girlfriend, pets, family, and cable. So you're pretty much screwed. Do not give your money away. What about all those other charges that show up on your credit card bill that you never got around to canceling? You probably need to eat rice and beans and pay down that debt. Affordable, healthy food is a great start to making money appear where there was none. Jobs. Automation is our friend. Imagine you were a concert musician 100 years ago, and you heard that there was a new device that was going to take your job. This magical device would allow people to record a better musician than you on the same instrument that you play, and everyone else in the world would be able to listen to that better musician, perhaps with a better instrument, from the comfort of their own home, over and over again, for free. You'd be pretty scared and pissed off, right? You would no longer be as needed as you once were. You would need to provide increased benefits to people in order for them to choose seeing you and hearing you, instead of seeing or hearing the recording of a better musician. The point is, what makes a better world? Are there more people listening to music or performing it? It is obvious the world is better off with the ability to make recordings of our loved ones and music and film. The world is vastly better off than it once was, and yes, at some time in the long ago past, some musicians actually had to take a hit for the world to become greater. What's the solution? Pay the affected minority. It is always better to move the world ahead at the cost of a small minority, for that small minority can be easily compensated out of the mass earnings that come from implementing the better world, if you choose to do so, or they can just live off the saved earnings their monopoly power used to afford them, or they could be retrained for new jobs. Peak horse population occurred in 1920 in the United States. The car made the world a better place than the horse. The citizens of New York were worried they would be covered in feet-deep horse shit over time because it was accumulating faster than they could clear it. Few people today know that. Not to mention the thousands of dead horses that had to be carted away and turned into glue. Laying off $15 an hour workers is good for $5 an hour workers. Consumers demand better quality products at always lower prices. Businesses produce goods and services for their customers and usually maintain a workforce of people to execute the tasks required to fulfill their customers. Usually, when lots of employees are laid off, it is because there's been a downturn in business, or the jobs have been moved to somewhere people will work for cheaper. This is complained about by the employees and the general public and politicians. It's often not complained about by the company managers and shareholders, though, and often the value of the company rises. So, what's going on here? Why is it that the same event causes such a difference in emotion? In that particular case, the workers do not care about the plight of the poorer people who are now doing for less the same job they used to do for more. They couldn't care less about those people. The workers do not know their names, haven't been where they live, and often can't even speak the same language. So it's quite easy for them to ignore the plight of the people that need the jobs more. The people in charge of the company are legally obligated to look after the shareholders' interests by maximizing the profit of the company. If there's worse off people in the world that can do the same job as well as, or better, than the higher paid, better off people currently doing it, it's the directors of the company's job to do what is more profitable. While the flight of jobs from the United States in the 1990s and beyond was bad for American workers, it was a boon to Asian workers who would work for less money. The shift helped lift millions of people out of grinding poverty across the globe. Automation taking jobs is great. Thus, we can safely say the man who invented the phonograph, which allowed us to make recordings of sound and play the sounds back where and when we wished, did the world a tremendous favor. We have similar improvements to our technical abilities as a race quite often these days. Nearly anything that slows that progress shrinks the pie from which we must all eat. Technology enlarges the pie for all, and it's the job of our social systems and governments to make sure that no one party is overly harmed in that progress, and to redistribute the earnings from technological progress across the people. There is no good in this world but for that which benefits man. Without man, there is no good. Funny enough, if you don't appreciate wealth redistribution, you must never have met a man destroyed by wealth. Too much wealth is much more a burden than a blessing. How many lottery winners are better off from becoming wealthy? Owning a thing basically just means the right to make sure other people don't get to use it. Being noble and beneficial to the world is a given when you get to control the location and use of a thing exclusively. Seems pretty greedy when you put it that way. Wouldn't it be funny if we lived in a world where there were only very, very wealthy men who lived on the moon and left all their possessions here on Earth? We would live in their houses, swim in their swimming pools, and they would never bother to even see them. What use is owning a thing you can't see and do not use? It's social signaling value, it's fulfilling your greed or hoarding desire. Don't hinder technology to try and make up for bad governments and wealth distribution. If you do, you still have a bad government, and you'll still be broke. However, you'll also have no cool tech. Technology is all that will save us, and while some groups will get less pie of the enlarged whole, it's the job of governments and society in general to see that these harmed parties are still made well, so that other parties in the future see less benefit in slowing down the progress of the world. The means of solving the problems of the middle and lower class is outside the abilities of technology. The rich keep getting richer, and the poor keep getting richer, except in percentage terms compared to the rich. Mindset. Imagine that when you closed your eyes, millions of dollars were put in your bank account, and sometimes they were taken out. They came and went like breath. Would you feel it? Then why do you care so much about how much money you have that you're not using? Once you become wealthy, you feel the need to get more, and for most, it never goes away. The greed and the desire is real, and you become trapped by success. You become your work. You become your bank account. It's a terrible thing to happen to anyone, really. For how can one cleanly decide what one wants from life when there is so much risk involved with changing, while another one gets so much reward by staying the same? Caring about the world beyond your paycheck. How many people want a job, any job, that pays well and isn't too hard? Why would one restrict themselves to a vision that sees no farther than their paycheck and day at work? We live in a world where people don't really care too much about what the actual result of the work they're doing is. If people cared more to be doing work that actually made the world a better place, then it would cost less to get people for those wholesome and productive jobs than it costs currently. If more people cared to work on empowering pursuits, then more empowering things would get done, because it would leave less people available to do the work that was crappier, driving up the cost of crappier work in an attempt by employers to fill the positions. Thus, as a thought experiment, if more people wanted to plant trees, then there would be more tree planters in the world because the price would be lower per tree planter. If less high-pressure, tactic, scam salesmen wanted to do the job, then the pay would increase, and there would be less high-pressure salespeople. Thus, we would live in a better world if people cared more specifically about what the outcome of what their labor was, outside themselves. Stay close to the source of revenues. Just like protein turns into muscle easier, sales turn into higher pay for you easier because you generate higher profits for the company. It makes it easier for them to give you what you, yourself, are creating. Whereas if you create software instead of money, you are more likely to consider a place for money to go out instead of a place where money comes in. This is because for every extra layer away from the physical check that gets written, the easier it is to see you as an expense. Business. Use the tools of business to sell great ideas. Companies and ideas are best represented by symbols, and the reason that you see symbolism being used is that it predates human language and human speech. Symbolism and assigning meanings to symbols has been around for a really long time. It's really effective. It's the reason that most successful companies have a logo and a certain color scheme and a certain placement in the purchaser's mind in regards to whether they're better or worse than other companies. That's why companies use halo products. They want all their other products to look better. Therefore, they release one amazing product, so at least you know that the company's capable of great quality when they choose to be. Then you assume that applies otherwise in other places in their business, just as you assume that a person that is good at something has the capability to be good at other things as well. Or, as a person that is, to the best of your knowledge, good at nothing, you're likely to assume is good at nothing anywhere else as well. Good movements should have logos, brands, mnemonic techniques, slogans, placement, unique benefit statements, money-back guarantees, and everything else that interesting, useful, powerful, effective businesses use for selling products. These should also exist for selling ideas. If product packaging is so important in the retail areas of life, then why don't we see ideas with as much focus on the packaging? Hey, become Jewish. Jewish people are some of the richest people in the world because what we do works. Now, that can be true or false, who knows? But some portion of the people exposed to that idea would see it as compelling and would act upon it and may give competitive advantage to Jewish people for the acquisition of new followers. Branding great ideas. There are all types of packaging around ideas, phraseology, product placement, money-back guarantees, unlimited time offers, and what motivates human beings to adopt products. Those things are the result of well-structured, well-designed marketing. No one is majoring in idea packaging and sales for ideas that aren't profitable. This is because some of the best ideas you'll ever learn, no one's making any money on. If you're taught that the best way to divide a cake between two children, with the children cutting it, is to introduce the restriction that one person cuts and one person chooses, you would see a magical, logical strategy that has no equal. SciVive will continue to look for that type of amazingly simple, awesome, fairness-generating strategy that if one person cuts, the other person chooses. The person who cuts will make the absolute most perfect cut down the middle. It's similar to how we prevent conflict of interest. One lawyer can't represent two parties that are in a conflicting arrangement. A doctor can't make money prescribing you to get tests. A judge can't make money by sending you to a for-profit jail. Those strategies for preventing conflicts of interest and assuming that even honest people can be corrupted with strong enough perverse incentives should be employed in less profitable but infinitely more wholesome and useful places in the world in regards to being ethical and a good person and doing good things. Those ideas aren't being promoted, packaged, or branded. They also aren't being made exclusive and don't have a member's reward card or get you discounts. But they could. Whoever solves that problem makes the world a much better place. The billions and trillions of dollars of commerce that run on those strategies should be used for good ideas and religious strategies. Some of the best ideas aren't being promoted using business tactics or religious tactics. At some point, we must admit that those ideas aren't being promoted properly. If they're worthy of it, someone needs to actually do that form of promotion. The value of catalysts. Curation and catalyzing is super valuable. Shouldn't other curators and lubricants, catalysts, introducers, and networkers be similarly rewarded for performing the same functionality as synapses in the global super consciousness? How valuable is the firing pin and primer to a bullet? What's worth more, the spark or the flame? Depends on how many flames you have, right? 0 flames, spark is everything. Lots of flames make spark less valuable. The power of contracts. You sign a single piece of paper. The whole weight of the government and men with guns takes what you own at gunpoint to make sure that you keep your word. Contracts are cool. Love the contract. Good contracts make good friends. Stupid job offerings. Treat your potential employees with the same respect you treat your customers when you market to them. Do not command them. Do not insult them. Respect them. For some reason, these days, when you look for a job, you'll see tons of fluff. When you write a job offer, if no normal human being would use any of the phrases to describe themselves that you're looking for, then you're just disqualifying all the people who are actually qualified. Do you really give a damn about half these qualifications? If you make your requirements so fantasy-based, the only applicants you will get are those that are more than happy to lie to you and pretend they meet these fabricated specs. No honest person feels comfortable applying to such a fantastic list of nonsense. There might actually be 0 people on the planet that match these specs. Easy qualifiers like 10 years of experience required using a tool that's only existed for 5. Why do you care how many years someone has worked with a tool? Does years using a tool actually point to competency? If a person bashes one's own big toe with a hammer for 10 years, does that make that person a master carpenter? It doesn't matter what you have done. It matters what you can do. Fluffy, word-laden fantasy paragraphs describing humans that don't, and really shouldn't exist, serves one and only one purpose: to make your HR person look like they are useful. If your HR person writes stupid ads like this, fire them. These types of job postings do more harm than good. Dumb job ad. Example. Lollycam is looking for badass growth hackers. Online marketing manager. This position is based in San Francisco and Palo Alto, California. Looking for your next growth challenge? We are looking for an online marketing manager. Growth for Lollycam app who can strategically unlock the next stages of growth and continue to delight more and more users around the world. Lollycam is an iconic and fun video creation app which users around the world love to create memorable moments and share them with friends and family. But it's still day one in inspiring the world to create more and share more videos out of every day across all their messengers and social networks. You are a consumer-focused, data-driven, creative marketing leader who has successfully designed and delivered growth results at scale in the digital world. You will innovate and deliver bold new ways for us to systematically acquire new downloads, activate Lollycam to be visible in every online marketing channel. You will make our users easily find our app in the app stores and engage them day after day with new contents from Lollycam, so they stay with us longer and bring their friends to our app. You will drive the strategy and operate daily marketing promotion for your functional area, and oversee the development of new contents by working together with our creative team. The successful candidate will have led growth for popular, must-have consumer apps across platforms, combining creativity and passion for amazing customer experiences with a growth hacker approach to driving acquisition. She or he will have a deep understanding of the acquisition/referrals, activation/onboarding, and adoption/retention loop. She or he must be highly analytical, able to work extremely effectively in a lean startup environment, and adept at synthesizing a variety of technologies and capabilities into high-quality, simple, and entertaining apps that customers love. Key responsibilities: create the overall growth strategy, roadmap, requirements, and release schedule to drive user and usage growth. Manage and lead the daily online marketing activities in various social media, messenger, web, email, in-app, and any right marketing channels. Provide the lead generation for what kinds of contents should be created for growth hacking with Content's team. Acted as the front line to communicate with users' requests, needs, and complaints, and implement users' needs to product planning and roadmap collectively. Manage the brand identity and awareness to improve users' perception and support all the PR activities in corporate. Generate and go deep on consumer insights, business and product analytics, and competitive intelligence to drive product innovation and continuous iteration. Learn from customer feedback, behavioral measurements, and other data sources to craft better experiences and ensure we are building the right features over time. Work cross-functionally with the content creation team and UX, engineering, and partnership teams to deliver growth on Lollycam in the US market. Drive positive business outcomes, including aggressively growing our acquisition rate, retaining existing customers, and engaging new ones by helping craft a vision for and then delivering bold product innovation. Make decisions around build versus buy to optimize around time to market. Basic qualifications: bachelor's degree from a top university or appropriate work experience on well-loved technology products, 3+ years post-MBA, or 5+ years work experience performing relevant product management job functions. Mobile experience across top-tier platforms or relevant consumer application or software experience. Experience relying on analytics and data to shape product decisions and empower tracking the effectiveness of change. Extensive multivariate A/B testing and funnel optimization experience. Passion for mobile video and media business. Experience working with a cross-functional team across design, marketing, and engineering team. Being comfortable in a fast-paced and international startup atmosphere. Experiences to grow mobile apps, over 100 million downloaded globally, are the strongest plus. Excellent communication and interpersonal skills. What do they even do? Oh, they put funny hats on your selfies. Wow. Just wow. Every sentence is so full of fail that it's like picking out diamonds out of a pile of diamonds. Pro tip: people reading job ads are not looking for their next growth challenge. They're looking for paychecks. Might you mention anything they would actually care about? Are your chairs comfortable? What real humans would they be working with in the office? What do you pay? The friction introduced by neither party throwing a pay number out there far cancels out whatever negotiating power you think you're getting. Imagine if you treated your customer-facing ads the same way you did this job ad. You are a user. Come spend time on our app so we can make money. You will drive up our minutes on site. You will make friends. Use our app. You will be our customer now. This poor form that you would never do to a user, you're doing to the people you hope to work alongside in the real world? Speak to their needs first, then yours. Please treat your potential employees as you would your customers. Speak to the needs they might actually care about. You are writing the job listing for them, aren't you? Why? Double or nothing until you call it even, then bounce. A personal story from Richard Hart.
So I used to play poker when I was supposed to be studying in school. In between classes, I'd be able to deal standing up, walking around. It was a lot of fun. And I had this one friend named TD, and TD would lose a lot. He used to play very volatile style. He would owe me a lot of money. And so he would just say, hey, okay, double or nothing. And we would double or nothing and lose. And then he'd be like, double or nothing, and we'd double or nothing and lose. And now he owed me so much money, he could never pay me back. And since he would never be able to pay me anyway, hey, why don't I just let him double or nothing until he's even, and then maybe we could get him to lose an amount he'd be comfortable paying.
That's what life is. Because of bankruptcy, and because we don't have debtors' prisons, and prisons full of slaves, or at least they're not there because of slavery, then if you are the risk-taking type of guy who's willing to double or nothing enough times, all you need to do to be rich is just leave off on a double win. Because when you lose, you don't go under negative. Just file bankruptcy and you go back to zero. It's an asymmetrical war. You have a call option on the progress of the world. You take risk, double or nothing, stop on a double. If it doesn't work out, you don't go into the negatives, you just go to zero, because you are able to wipe out your debt like that. People that are constantly rolling double or nothings eventually get a double. Working a job versus owning a business. When you own a business, you help many people. When you work a job, you help one person, your boss, assuming the company has a single owner. You'll get more from serving others than you could ever get serving yourself. The sooner you start helping everyone else get what they want, the sooner you can hire a team of people who focus solely on making your life better so you don't have to. New computers coming out? They migrate you. New restaurant opening? You're already there on opening night because their job is to spend 40 hours a week making your life awesome. The sooner you can benefit others at scale, the sooner you can reflect that scale back to yourself and have multiple people doing full-time what you could never have the time, inclination, or perhaps ability to do for yourself. It's easy to think that what makes a man rich is what he does. In fact, what makes a man rich is what everyone else does. Bill Gates isn't wealthy because he started a business. He's wealthy because the entire world bought his products. It is the world and its systematic behavior that causes things to happen. This way, you can understand better that a different human, Bill Gates, would have emerged having performed the same task, perhaps at a different time. There has to be some merit in shifting the focal point externally. It accounts for monopoly. If the government doesn't enforce your contracts or keep people from stealing your ideas and customers and goods, what do you have? Commerce is only possible through a group communal enforcement of goods. It's the system of other people that allows you to do whatever business you wish, more so than it is your raw desire. You're probably already copying and using the same ideas and principles that have existed for thousands of years. Let's give society and the system the respect it's easy to forget is deserved in the nice first world. If you were to try and operate a business in the third world, you'd quickly long for a real court and real police. You have to put things in the right perspective. Look at the whole world. Give a random person $1 million or take away $1 million. One's quality of life in regards to longevity, health, and enjoyment of life won't be greatly affected. But if some huge breakthrough is found that cures a disease that might develop, or if some new popular thing comes along that brings great joy to one's life, the things that may or may not make that person's life more enjoyable, or longer, or healthier, have much more to do with facts outside of whether that person has that $1 million or not. Look at the Tesla car, for example. It's the safest car. It's the fastest car. And whether you had $1 million or not, you couldn't buy one until someone with a couple $100 million put money on the line to invent it, build it, make it available, and allow you to be aware of it. So if you're truly globally conscious, you'll minimize the degree to which you think your money is going to make a huge effect in your life, and maximize the degree to which everyone else's productivity will. Your focus. Focus on something that someone else actually cares about that you can solve a problem for. Study marketing tactics. A lot of people get to choose price points. Maybe in this industry, one price point beats another price point. Study color scheme. What color scheme should your website be? Does orange actually make people hungrier? Does hunger actually sell more of your product? Study timing, study cross sales, study upsales, and study something that can exponentially grow so that you can solve somebody's problem financially. Don't study paths on the cost side that you can't get exponential growth from. Oh, I've reduced your cost to zero, a linear benefit. Please let me get a little bit of money, please, sir. And then it's not applicable across industries usually. Oh, I found you a way to make this product without using this chemical, so now you save more money. Okay, great. What does that have to do with selling tea in China? Not a thing. Goods and services are all that matter. If goods and services are how we measure the productive output of the world, then you only have two choices for making honest money in this life. If you start out, as most of us do in this world, then you have to work for a living. If your choices are to perform services or make or sell products, SciVive strongly suggests you go the products route. Products are better than services. Products are better than services, a lot better. When you sell the hours of your life for money, you never find more hours to sell. You can also never increase your product range. You only have the hours you have. The best you can do is improve the market into which you sell your services, the hours of your life. You raise the prices on your services. This is called getting a new job and finding a new boss to pay you. With products, you can scale up. You can expand your product range, expand your sales into other states and countries, get better prices, have special offers, package it better, offer it with other items, cross-sell, upsell, co-brand, private label, on and on. Now you have a brand that has value of its own. You not only have a future and options, you can also make 10 times more sales every year for quite a few years. If instead you started a service business, you're then relying on the most unreliable path you're likely to find. Teach your first apprentice? Great, now you have your first competitor. You want to serve 10 times more customers in a year? It's easier to sell 10 times more boxes. Quite hard to do 10 times more house calls. If you want help doing something, you need only dream about what tickles your fancy. If you are driven by curiosity, like many are, it creates a drive in you that is not easily overcome. Let's say that you thought about a cool new idea that would solve a problem you have, and you decided that you would go forth and solve this problem and execute that cool idea. Then you remembered one of the tenets of a survivalist, which is, if you work hard to solve a problem for yourself, and that problem isn't well solved for other people, then you should take the time required in this ever-shrinking and more niche crowd-funded world to solve that problem for others. Now you not only get to enjoy the solved problem for yourself, you also get to enjoy the profit and prestige that comes from making others' lives better. When the curiosity dries up, here is where you might run into a problem. Imagine now that the problem you had was well solved by the idea you executed. Now the original drive and curiosity is gone. If you want to remain engaged with the project, you must find a new drive and curiosity. What is it about the project you just finished for yourself that would make you interested in solving it for other people? What cool thing could you do with the prestige or money that would come from solving the problem for others? Finding the new drive. Perhaps by getting everyone else's capital committed, you could solve the problem even better, with a better material, better rounded edges, a better feel or sound, whatever you have in your mind. Nevertheless, the idea is the same. Whatever you solved once for yourself, you could probably solve again for yourself in a better way if you had more money available. Why wouldn't you have 100 times the money available? Surely, as a true survivalist problem-solving master, you could find over 100 other people in the world with the same problem. Otherwise, you would have picked a different problem to solve in the first place. Manifesting reality. Try this for fun. Take something that you want, anything, and plop it in your mind. Boom, there it is, the object of your desire. It is now sitting on a well-lit white stage in your mind's eye. Now, let's dream this dream backwards. How did what you want get there, to that stage? Okay, and what came before that? And before that? And before that? Until you get to where you are right now, sitting down, hearing these fine words. We've dreamt a very rough path that is possible for what you want to become reality. The challenge is that it just takes so damn long and so much effort. Unless perhaps what you dreamt was a sandwich, in which case hit the refrigerator, and quench your desire at once. That last part is quite common. Knowing your outcome, visualizing your destiny, and dreaming the future, that's been common knowledge for quite a long time. This part is new. We looked at steps on the path to what you want, for they're obviously just as important. You will not get where you want to go without hitting some waypoints along the way. Teleportation isn't going to happen. Going backwards and visualizing those waypoints is super important, for it enhances the chance that you will reach the first of them, and then the next, and then the next, and so on. So we did some backwards waypointing. Cool. What other awesome thing could we do? A creativity exercise could be beneficial. Let's imagine, as well as we can, that whatever you dreamt, it instantly became true, for giggles. So as to not go off the rails into not doable la-la land, let's stick to dreaming about things instantly coming true, just in the direction of that desire that's sitting on that well-lit stage in your mind. Delicious details. Use this example to give it a try. Use something that has been in your mind for a while already, so it's a little easier for you to follow the waypoints. Let's use a common one, a website idea. On your stage, you can visualize the website. Back in the old days, you might have dreamt it as a building. But how many people can you positively touch with a building that contains a single business? At the top of your website is a beautiful call to action, a headline, something that the people visiting would actually care to hear and read about. It could be funny, it could be true, or both. You want your website to have none of the time-wasting, meaningless dribble that consumes so many other websites that are much more concerned with themselves than the customer. The highest and best use of a website is to serve its visitors. So how is this website going to serve its visitors? In this instance, it is to share with them a very unique product that has never been for sale before and solves a few problems. You decide to go over a list of the problems it solves before choosing the language you will use to encapsulate the solutions. You must first visit the negative frame to invert it and focus on the positive. It's actually also useful to use positive and negative space, as it is to use rewards and punishments. There's really no reason to limit yourself to just pulling or pushing when you can do both. Sometimes negative space poisons the experience, so try to have someone else lose those cool points while keeping the good ones if possible. It's an art. Problems to be solved. Our phones, computers, and electrical gadgets have never been more important to us. The one thing all these gadgets have in common is that they need electricity. Thus, there's always a question of how do you get the power from the wall into the devices you love? Jealousy. It's much easier to dream of a nice future when you see other people living your dream. What an easy shortcut to consensus on a viable path. At least more viable than any other known way. Might still be impossible for you personally if you're a 4-foot-tall guy who wants to play in the NBA. Make scalable things into kits. Make things scalable. Make them into kits. Little problems that you spend lots of time on, like customizing a car, end up taking just as much time and failing much harder than almost anything having to do with business. So just do the business and buy a better car. Cheaply and quickly testing if your business idea will work. You should try advertising whatever you plan to sell without actually stocking it. You can say that you just sold out, or you can say that you were just testing. If you can't get people to call the ad, what's the use of having the product at all? Ramp up. Focus on creating a design that human resources can advance without you. You don't have to be hard on yourself because you don't actually matter. What matters is the design. If you've got enough money to get a head start, set the right design and have the right human resources. You could do a terrible job and waste your life away, but what you create will do a great job. And perhaps those people that you hired and that you control they're going to do a great job no matter what you do. Then, despite yourself, no matter how bad you mess up, your employees are still going to do good work because there's people out there that just exist that way. Some people just kick ass because it's what they do. The term startups. Startup is a misnomer, a useless description of companies. If you are going to use words to describe things so that you know the difference between one thing and another thing, which is why everything doesn't have the same name, then you might as well stop calling businesses startups. This is because the important component of the endeavor is what they are out to do, not how old they are. That would be like calling McDonald's that 50-year-old company. No one cares how old or new your company is. We care about what you are doing. Let's stop calling all damn startups startups. Let's refer to them as to what they are actually trying to do and stop focusing on their age. Or maybe if you wanted to, you could use their user count or some other metric that is actually useful. There's not a great deal of similarity between a company that's got 100,000 customers and is only 6 months old being called a startup and some dumb idea that you had in your basement about selling lemonade at a cardboard stand in your front yard, also a startup. Calling both of those things the same thing kind of breaks the usefulness long term, which was not useful to start with. When you launch a startup, there's a very good chance that you're not going to make a positive impact in the world because you're going to run out of money. Lots of people come up to you and say, "Hey, I've got a really great idea, but I'm afraid to tell you because I'm afraid that you might do it." And then you say, as Seth Golden does and lots of other respected authors in the business world will do, that ideas are actually quite affordable. As a matter of fact, ideas are just about the least costly part of any business. You'll see lots and lots of great businesses with great ideas fail because, in fact, the hard and expensive part is cutting the wheat from the chaff. In addition, some of the best products that you'll find in the world that are well executed were not what they started out as. For instance, Flickr was originally a video game company. They accidentally became a photo sharing company, a good photo sharing company. Facebook was once meant to be just a way for people to talk to their friends at Harvard. Then it became a status symbol. From Wikipedia, quote, Facebook is a social networking service launched on February 4th, 2004. It was founded by Mark Zuckerberg with his college roommates and fellow Harvard University student Eduardo Saverin. The website's membership was initially limited by the founders to Harvard students, but was expanded to other colleges in the Boston area, the Ivy League, and gradually most universities in Canada and the United States, corporations, and by September 2006, to everyone of age 13 and older with a valid Harvard email address, end quote. They wanted people to be able to get an address there, and they thought that that was their value proposition. Hey, look, your friends will kind of think that you're at this executive college. And then it turned out that no one cared about that, and they cared more about all the other things the website offered. Slack, a multi-billion-dollar company, became a chat and collaboration app, but it originally was to become an in-house app to manage things within their online game. 37 Signals, now called Basecamp, started in a similar manner. They just needed something in-house, and they did what they needed. That story has happened over and over and over again, where execution is so good that the idea you didn't have originally is what makes you all your money, all your success, and makes everyone happy, and gets you all the clients. The thing you weren't thinking of, which you thought would not work well, the side thing, is what actually got attention from the masses. The thing that you thought was awesome, the thing that you got funding for, the thing that you worked so hard for, failed and disappeared. Only because you were able to execute on this other idea by making a smart pivot move are you now able to make billions of dollars. Cut out the middlemen. If a matchmaker introduced a man and woman for pair bonding and said, "So I'm going to need you to both have sex with me 10% of the time you have sex with each other because I helped the deal happen. That's my cut." This is an example of how middlemen use scum tactics. Dad, son, and Facebook. Son tells Facebook, "Come see my soccer match." Facebook tells Dad. They're all at the same table. Dad then tells Facebook, "Okay." Then Facebook tells son, "Okay," and also mentions that he might want to buy some soccer shoes. This is the world we live in. Scaling. Scaling is easier when code does the work for you. Part of the reason that doing a software business is so much better than any hardware business, if effective, is because the amount of good that you can do for others isn't restricted by them having to buy, have shipped, store, and perhaps charge for a physical item. Their life can be affected in a beneficial way at nearly zero cost per extra user. That's why if you can find ways to help people digitally or through information, it's much easier to help more people. Remember this principle. It's easier to make money by affecting millions of people a little bit, rather than a few people a whole lot. It's basically the limiting factor of how much you can positively affect someone's life. Even if you meant the whole world to a person, how could that person's whole world possibly compare in value to a small piece of world, but from 1 billion people? No matter how much you could do for a single person, you'd find it hard to not make more of an impact, no matter how individually small, times 1 billion people. Focus on profit. Leave the less impactful things out. Just bring in the profit. Try to do what is worth doing, and not all the things you could do, but aren't really worth much. The 80-20 rule makes it so that 80% of your problems come from 20% of your customers, and 80% of your profit comes from 20% of your products, etc. So by focusing on the good and getting rid of the bad, you can do great things. Imagine that you start 100 businesses and you spend all your time shopping for 100 locations for them to exist and building 100 logos, etc. It's likely you will end up with 0 businesses. Instead, let's imagine you just start one business. Do whatever you need to do to get it up and running, and do it well. And then you go on to business 2. It's much smarter to start a thing and finish it so that it can be making you money in the background while you start the next thing than it is to half start 10 things and watch all of them fail. Or really even worse, they never fail because you think that they are all in progress, while in reality, they're all progressively and slowly failing despite your ongoing effort. 10 chefs going into the kitchen and blowing hot air on a steak isn't going to do as well a job cooking it as one chef putting it on the grill. The value of logos. Great marketing involves branding, stylization, packaging, color, contrast, and texture in all the components that make one product sell better than another product. You will see 100% more value on the better packaged product. Why do you think a video card comes in such a big box? All video cards can come in tiny boxes. It's all empty space. Why the big boxes? Because packaging matters a lot, and perception matters a lot. What someone else told you about something matters a lot. What would be the best thing to put on an idea to represent an idea? What would be the best thing to put on a book to represent a book? What's the best thing to put on a company to represent a company? You'll see throughout history that the most powerful ideas are associated with a logo. Countries have flags. A flag is a logo for a country. Families used to have a coat of arms. A coat of arms is a brandable logo for your family corporation group. The myth of the 10x developer. A 10x developer is an individual who is thought to be as productive as 10 others in his or her field. The 10x developer can produce 10 times the outcomes of other colleagues in a production, engineering, or software design environment. Some tasks are so hard that you can either do them or not. You can't half do them. This is where 10x developers actually exist. Some tasks are incremental, like data entry. It's very hard to find someone that can speak or type 10 times faster than someone else. Thus, sometimes 10x developers seem to exist because they can do the job that others can't, 0 or 1, binary. And sometimes that same developer isn't 10x at all because the project doesn't support the complexity required to stop others from performing, and thus allowing one to achieve a 10x status. Thus, if it's not complex, you're not going to have a 10x. If it is complex, some people will never be able to do it at all. And in that case, they're really infinite X developers because that's the difference between something existing and not, right? For instance, let's say you need to bench press 500 pounds. Either you can or you can't. There's really no halfway doing it, right? So is it fair to say that the person that can bench 500 pounds is 10x the person that can bench only 50? Nope, not if you only care about the 500 pounds. It's binary. The 50-pound bench press guy isn't useful for this task. In summary, 10x is misleading. It's often all or nothing. Complexity allows 10x to exist sometimes. It is the task being worked on that decides whether you can be a 10x performer or not. Before you look for a 10x person, ask, is this a task that can actually be multiplied tenfold? Humans are far less reliable than machines. To sell more boxes, you need barely any new infrastructure. Maybe more space, maybe more shelves. You want to do 10 times more house calls or service of whatever sort? You need about 10 times the people and 10 times the vehicles. And then you've got lots of people that work for you. They get sick, they steal, they compete against you, and they make a union to get the most pay possible. Now you have 10x the problems. Depending on where you live, you might not be allowed to fire them. They might get pregnant and leave, and you can pay them for the next year while they take care of their newborn. Lucky you. If business doesn't go so well and you can't keep everyone, you have to let some go. Then you come off as terrible. You find people that will do the same or better work for the same or less money, and you want to switch to them? Damn you! How dare you allow competition? Being an employer is not all that it's cracked up to be, and it's worse than that. You will feel great stress as a nice employer, feeling it's your lot in life to never fire anyone and never give anyone a pay cut. And that social stress of being responsible for so many friendly faces should be more stress than any purely financial stress should be. Money rarely calls you a bastard to your face or behind your back. Money also rarely punches you in the face. Take a look at the richest people in the world. How many of them make products and how many make services? Barring amazing gifts of ability in performing services, always choose products. More challenges. Non-compete agreements. Non-compete agreements are basically like door locks. They're just there to keep honest people honest. Like door locks, they don't stop anyone actually motivated to break the law. Detecting leeches. Forced vacations are nice because you can tell who's actually important and who's just a pretender. If they go on vacation and no one even notices, they very well may be a leech. Just like you're not always doing what you should do, neither are your employees. If you happen to be in the tech business and you have the bandwidth, you might find it useful to just screen share their screens on your screen. If you have a 4K screen, you can look at 4 full resolution 192 by 1080 screens. You can probably detect them messing around at a compressed resolution, depending on how large an area their messing around is taking up. You could also use a program like Manic Time to track what files, websites, and programs they're actually spending time on. If you have enough employees, looking over their shoulders should be a full-time job, unless it's a hard-to-measure task like software, in which case you may not be able to detect good use of time, but you could detect bad uses of time, like Facebook or Reddit. Minimum management. When you don't have to manage other people, you don't think work is getting done when you're not doing it. You're more likely to start working more once you lose your employees, because your messing around becomes infinitely more obvious. When you are busy managing other people, you're not personally doing work to get the project done. It's even likely that the increase in performance you get out of the other people by managing them is less than you would just letting them be mediocre and working alongside them. This ratio changes the more people you are able to influence. The smaller the team, the more you should just work hard and let them mess up. Money is good to have. More money equals less risk. Better environment equals more opportunities. The compounding effect says that if you live in a better neighborhood, you have better friends, and you're more likely to make more money. If you make more money, you can have better health care and a car that avoids getting into accidents with other people. Go on YouTube and search for the Tesla Auto Collision Avoidance System or other manufacturers. You'll see accidents that definitely would have happened but didn't because they had enough money to have an anti-collision system in their car, and if you don't have the money for that, then you're going to have more risk in your life. The more money you have, the more time you have. The healthier you could be, the healthier you can eat, and the smarter your friends are, the more opportunities that show up. Where some people will die by getting the wrong treatment, you'll get the right treatment. And where some people will die by getting into a car accident, you may not, because your car can save you. As a matter of fact, you could have so much money that you don't have to drive anymore. Or you could ride in a bus that's so big that the world could run into you and you wouldn't notice, because the momentum of your vehicle causes everyone else to be pushed aside. Family business. Lots of people grow up working for the family business. One could imagine lots of them get paid hourly. Paying your family members to work seems to be all right. The chance that you have a family business where your employees can actually grow is pretty slim. It is more likely they'll just leave you when they can. Negotiating. What's the least you'll take? Buying something. What would have to happen to convince you of this? If you can't get a good pre-question answer, you won't get a good real question answer. If you can't hold hands with the girl, you can't kiss the girl. If you can't get into a conversation with the girl, you can't hold hands. Hoop theory. 2 small hoops, 1 large hoop. This is like the Benjamin Franklin strategy, that if a person does one thing for you, it's easier to get them to do more for you. What's the least you will take? If I do X, Y, and Z, will you do M right now? If there's no commitment, then you don't do X, Y, or Z. If I can get you a discount on this model and get you the red color, will you buy the car right now? If I pay you cash and buy right now, can I get a 20% discount? If they fail the pre-test hoop, then you haven't just given away margin for nothing. It's like security at the credit card company. They don't care what you have. They just want you to have more. They want to feel like they broke your balls a bit to prove who you are. So any information you volunteer without them asking is just wasting the finite amount of data you have to offer and wasting time. You're probably messing up their script as well. Lots of lower paid people don't work so well off script. Leadership. There are a lot of people in this world who have employees, and some of them haven't learned to lead by example. They're paying a great privilege to have employees, and instead of becoming better men themselves and getting more performance out of their employees, they're lesser men themselves. They get less from their own weak performance because they don't feel obligated to perform and lead, be honorable, and respected through positive behavior and output. So they lose twice. They lose once by being terrible workers, and they lose again when their employees notice how bad they are and end up doing less as well. Winners lead by example and are honorable and bring their A game. The ones who win get all the benefits from themselves, which may exceed what the employees can generate. It may depend on how many employees are working and whether they are being allocated properly, and if the employees are driven to excellence. You cannot find too many examples of successful teams or successful companies who have nothing good going for them. Maybe they exist, but they're probably the exception rather than the rule. Recognizing a good business. To know what is a good business is actually specialized knowledge. Unless you've been trained in it or are otherwise a very gifted and lucky person, you probably don't know what makes a good business a good business. Even if someone gave you an amazing, profitable idea with a high likelihood of working, you still wouldn't do it. Your super special, super amazing ideas that you think are so good and worth so much money are probably actually not, because you don't know what making a lot of money looks like unless you've done it a couple of times. There are people who are qualified to know the difference between a good business and a bad business, and you may or may not be one of them. Just because you had the idea doesn't mean that loads of other intelligent people all over the planet didn't come up with that same idea and patent it before you. If you invented it on your own, it doesn't matter because so did lots of other people. While we're talking about simultaneous invention, guess how many times the super important, super awesome eyeball has been invented in different creatures on completely different paths? 30, 40, 50 times? It's something that's so important and so useful that if we all died off and there was nothing left here but the chance of life occurring again with near certainty, if the Earth was similar in environment, then eyes would be created yet again because they work well. Idea profitability. If you want to know how sticky your idea is, you can just look at the profitability of your idea. The reason some ideas aren't profitable is because people don't want them to be. People vote with their dollars. If your ideas are terrible, people will let you know by not buying it. Whereas you might like to dream that the non-profit-oriented, more charitable idea is the better idea, actually what you're doing is you're just cutting off the voting ability of the people on the other side of the transaction. If you did charge a price, that price that you're charging is the ability for people to vote. That's their ballot, where they get to tell you whether what you have is good or bad. If you're interested in serving the customer, if you're interested in serving the world, then you should give them the ability to tell you what they think by buying or not buying your product. If you don't give them the ability to vote with their dollars, then you've never truly asked them whether what you're doing is viable or not. This is because the only reliable answer that you can use to know whether what you're doing is truly valuable to someone else or not is to ask them to answer you in cold, hard cash. Hire non-distracting people. Hire non-attractive people if you can. Beautiful people absorb the time and consciousness of everyone near them, either actively trying to become romantic or actively trying to not think about it. That's the definition of attraction. It's not a choice. Obviously, if you're hiring booth girls or outside sales reps, actors, etc., then you will need to have some beautiful people on board. If you're working in an office, though, it's very likely you will do better with uglier people, at least from a distraction perspective. Now, on the recruiting angle, however, you might have some challenges attracting new talent if your office looks like a zoo of human oddity. You could also try hiring all of a single gender, but that would not go over well with the social justice warriors. Use beautiful people to face the public. Harness the power of beautiful people for your endeavors. Making a TV show? Fill every single role with unrealistically beautiful people. Attraction is not a choice. We will tune in. Every time someone visits your store or sees your marketing, if you don't have a beautiful face on it, you've missed an opportunity to trigger an easy-to-get attraction response. We love beauty. Give us what we love. Reasons why you should think big. You may have yet to discover that when you are courting a beautiful woman, the amount of time and effort that goes into cute text messages, dressing nicely, going out on dates and such is exactly the same whether that girl is a 10 or a 5 on a scale from 1 to 10. Why not aim for the 10s? It's their job to shoot you down, not yours. Go in there, take your licks like a man, and try to make it work. As they say, if you shoot for the stars, you very well may hit the moon. The interesting part of this discovery is that it applies to business even more adeptly than it does to love. The time and effort that you put into a business that has small growth potential is identical to the time you put into a business that has billions of dollars of potential. In either business, you're likely to think about it and pay attention to news regarding it in your free time. When you're not in your free time, you'll likely be doing the 18 to 14-hour days that business people who want to be successful often put in. Why spend your time in a business with 10 to 1 million times less potential? How can you tell how much potential your business really has? A good metric some like to look at is how many lives can you affect? Is someone else already doing this for free? For example, let's say that you wanted to create a store to compete with Walmart. How will you outcompete them? Better selection? Better price? They maybe work on a 3% margin and have the lowest costs from their suppliers. It's really useful to compare the exponential growth side of sales to the linear cost side of savings. One can go up really high, and the other can move very far. Progress, not disruption. Disrupt sounds like the disruptors from Star Trek. It's not something you do to a business. When the giant banks came and ate up all the little banks, giving you the maximum risk with the minimum choice, that was disruption. War is disruption. Disruption isn't a noble goal. It's the difference between change and progress. What you want is not disruption, but progress. There are whole business conferences called Disrupt. They love to see things disrupted because they think it's very profitable to be disruptive to the existing companies in a space who are making lots of money. First, shareholders in businesses are a minority of humans, not a majority. The only people who love disruption are the people that are in the minority that stand to benefit massively financially from it, or perhaps anarchists in general. Change isn't what we need, progress is. Disruption isn't what we need, progress is. If you consider a massively successful disruptive industry, like casual gaming on your phone, which destroys thousands of years of useful human conscious ability every year, it should be a warning, not an example. Its profit is not a marker of how much better it has made the world, but of how much life it has wasted. So basically, disruption is often anti-productive. If you focus on disruption, you are taking what already is and inverting it. You are not inventing what doesn't exist yet. When you use what already exists as a starting point to calculate the next thing that you will do, then you already have blinders on that will limit your creativity. You don't need a better game. You need a way to gamify things that actually help mankind. You don't need a way to make long-distance phone calls cheaper on landlines. You need to stop having landlines. That type of thinking. Make your customers' lives easier. Look past the sale. What common behaviors do your customers have to perform after they buy from you? Do they have to buy other parts? Do they need installation? Do they have to track shipments? What about before the sale? Are there special tools? Do they have questions that must be answered? Why force them to become experts and know more about the business than you do? Why don't you do the experimenting and science for them? So few people do this that you can actually make it your brand. You know what your overseas B2B, business-to-business customers have to do when they buy from you? Track shipments, pay customs, etc. Why don't you pull the tracking data off the shipping vendor for them so they don't have to figure out 2 websites and can just visit yours? Then you can scrape the data to see if one of your mail carriers is slow or losing packages, and your customers have a reason to come to your website more often. If you give them the tracking number and want them to use it on the shipper's website, why would they come back to your site and see your cool new products? Foot traffic and eyeballs are valuable. Do your own unboxing videos. You spend millions on packaging, material, and design. But if someone wants to see an unboxing video, they have to go to some garage video YouTuber. Why don't you pay for your own professional unboxing videos? Why don't you do your own reviews as a giant corporation? You see how popular they are, right? The end users care more about the unboxing and review videos than any of the sad marketing fluff on your websites. Stop looking inwards and get in uptime. Know what your customers should want before they do. Know more about your product than they do. Do all the post-sale work for them instead of relying on amateurs to do it for you. Perhaps in the process, you will even learn more about what you are making and selling so that your next version can be better. Multi-tier usage of people in markets. Why don't we see more multi-tier usage of people in markets? Hey, you know someone that has this. You get an X finder's fee. Or, hey, I'm looking for this. I'll pay this, and I'll throw you X dollars for the introduction. You could look at it like TCP/IP, SYN/ACK overhead. It's a low price to pay for finding and being able to transact on what you are looking for. Google is an affiliate, an information middleman. Look at how much money Google makes serving this exact purpose. They're a giant middleman to the world's information. They generate no content worth reading compared to what they index. Look at how much money they make. Bidding tactics. You can offer 20% over anyone else's offer, and if there's any other action, why wouldn't they come to you? If the other people's offers are too high, you can just say so. You're not morally bound to get super screwed. Or you could include the language with a reason. Some people like the language, I'll give you 30% over anyone else's highest real offer. This works for items that you really want, that don't actually cost that much. However, most other people, for whatever reason, just aren't willing to pay that much. You could use this strategy if you have more money than the average bidder. Or you could reduce the amount of the other bids you are willing to pay. For instance, you might say only 10%, and they could still be happy with it. Why would you ever bid early? Always bid at the last minute. Stacking failure modes and dual points of failure. You hear people say good things about doing a startup in an industry that's risky and saying that it's like leverage. You're getting an option on an option. Those people are likely incorrect. What you're actually getting is dual points of failure, either of which drives the other to zero. You're not getting an option on an option. You're getting basically something that sucks multiplied by something else that sucks. Let's do the math. You just buy stock in an index. So the underlying asset, it goes up. You win. You buy stock in a company that invests in the asset. Company goes to zero. You go to zero. The asset that the company is dealing with goes to zero. You go to zero. Would you rather have 2 chances to go to zero that multiply by each other? Either one of them goes to zero, you're out. Or would you rather just have a single failure mode? Stacking failure modes on top of your idea doesn't give you more leverage, it gives you more failure. If you want proof of that concept, consider startups in the Bitcoin space. versus Bitcoin itself? Which one's doing better? No startups are doing even bearably good, while the project itself is doing fine. Understanding is expensive. We didn't need to understand how horses worked internally to build the car. You don't need to understand how cancer works internally to find it and destroy it. The solutions to many problems are found by not looking or caring about how or why the problem exists, but just focusing on what you want and getting that, not focusing on what you don't want. Would you rather analyze and understand why your room is messy, or would you rather just clean it? Not only does it cost too much, it also limits your creativity, putting blinders on you. Hunt down manufacturers. Dealing with retailers and worrying about their stock is almost nearly always more stupid than finding the root, the manufacturer, rather than hunting your distributors down. Call all of them to see which retailers have the item. Then you know you didn't miss any products. The markets. Easy to lose. The markets are where you go to make a small fortune out of a large fortune. If a guy is looking at screens all day long, guessing, will it go up or will it go down? How does this make the world a better place? The people that lose in the market get to go back to work. It's basically a battle for who has to work and who doesn't. When you think people are long or short, it can be the other way, because it reverses depending on whether they have already placed their trade or not. Did you ever notice that Berkshire Hathaway is always entering or exiting and never really done with a position? That's because they enter the trades intelligently. Selling. Showing up in searches. When you name files, spam them with the words you will be using to find that file later, or don't be surprised if you never find it again. Do the same for your ads and when you look for things. Keycap, keycaps, key cap, key top, and key set all give you different results, but what you're looking for is the same. Expand your saving tags and searching tags. The larger sites out there should do this work for your customers. Why do they have to be the thesaurus experts when you can tell that smart shoppers search common terms one after the other to land at the same ads? This can be done algorithmically or by humans. Make sure your business and website don't have homonyms, or you will have to spell it out every single time you tell someone about it, if you're ever lucky enough for them to know to ask. Shopping carts. If you only have one item, why do you have a cart for shopping? To visualize what you've got for sale, perhaps let people see items in spreadsheet form, in multiple orders and styles. Analysis paralysis. Analysis paralysis is real. If they don't know what they're buying is the right product you offer, they won't buy. This is why more products can be worse, just like more payment methods can be worse. Halo experiences. We live in a world of 4K screens, yet no matter what site you expand on your screen, it still wants to pretend you're on a cell phone, pretty much. Just like companies produce Halo and concept products to lend value to all the other products in their lineups, so too should websites offer a Halo experience, which would lend value to all the other inferior, smaller experiences they offer on mobile sites. People are trying to spend money on your sites. Why does one have to click Next 40 times and see only 4 columns at once? Why is the search feature so deficient? Why do customers have to search 4 different regional sites and beat up on your options to actually see all of what they can purchase? Amazon's search is so bad that people are actually building their own external searches to make the experience better. Marketing. In sales, You can offer someone a lie that has monetary value to them. You can tell them that something is the last one you have when it's really not. You could also say that the item was priced wrong and that the sales rep will get in trouble if you buy it, and it will also increase the value of the product in their eyes at the cost of a single lie and some reputation. And you could say your moral soul. Discounts. You're probably getting screwed. Next time you're offered any kind of discount or bargain, you have to assume the odds are not in your favor, because the person making the bargain or discounts or offerer's job is to get the maximum amount of profitable dollars out of you. Thus, unless some odd mistake has been made by that person, and he will actually end up getting less dollars, you are going to end up getting screwed. MyPillow condemned for fake discounts. In 2017, based on a pattern of complaints by consumers, the Better Business Bureau, BBB, revoked the accreditation of Minnesota-based MyPillow, lowering its rate to an F. The BBB made the decision after reviewing MyPillow's ongoing buy one, get one free offer, which violates the organization's code of advertising. Quote, among other issues, BBB has attempted to persuade MyPillow to discontinue their buy one, get one free, BOGO, other discount offers without success, said Dana Badgero, President and CEO of BBB of Minnesota and North Dakota. Quote, continuous BOGO offers, which can then be construed as an item's regular, everyday price, violate not only BBB's Code of Advertising, which all BBB-accredited businesses agree to abide by, but also other state and national organizations' rules. End quote. Marketing serpentine. Avoid the marketing serpentine in all stores. They rout you like a sheep. A stupid, shopping sheep that dispenses money. Overpriced Clarity.fm. Clarity.fm is a marketplace claiming to offer one-on-one expert advice on a wide variety of business topics. The site makes it easy to facilitate quick Q&A style consulting calls. Set up an extremely overpriced Clarity.fm account to establish value by proxy. Spam search results on LinkedIn to establish value by proxy. If you set yourself up with an account as an expert and you put your price high, it makes you seem valuable. Benefits of marketing. If searched for, many of the habits and inclinations we have can probably be traced to a hardcore marketing campaign. Is it solvable? Yes. Should someone solve it? Yes. Let's say you put in 0.5% of your holdings. Do this marketing campaign. Watch the new money come in and see your wealth grow. You could even sell into the new money and make back your $5,000 and roll it again, and roll it again, and roll it again. That's how marketing works. Your lifetime value of customers exceeds your cost of acquisition, and you're rolling in the dough. Patents. File and forget. How to file a patent? File and forget. You will spend more time researching if a patent already exists than paying your fee and letting the examiners do their jobs, which is to find out if it already exists. The more searching you do and the more you learn, the more risk you have because you are legally required to disclose anything you knew about that was relevant. And the situation could quite easily exist where you disagree on the relevance of certain information, and now you're legally liable for breaking the law. If you didn't over-search, you wouldn't be breaking the law. Now, there might be some minimum search that is required, in which case, if such a requirement did exist, one would suggest you meet that expectation within a comfortable margin and not exceed it, unless you are short on cash. Selling your business. Selling to greater fools can be better than selling to wizards. The wizards aren't likely to get a bad deal, so if they want to buy, perhaps you shouldn't be selling. If great investors want to buy your business, perhaps you shouldn't sell. If Warren Buffett wants to buy your business, you have to think to yourself, I'm basically taking the most opposite position on a transaction against a person who is known to make better decisions in this area. Is this really what I want to do? Perhaps you prefer freedom more than money. Maybe. But if you're selling for the money, you're better off feeling good about the trade when the person on the other side of it is an idiot than when the person on the other side makes you look like an idiot in comparison. Scams. The funny thing about being scammed is that if you don't have much money, you can't be scammed for much money. If you do have lots of money, it's likely that you are able to make lots of money, and therefore if you are scammed, you can recover and go back to having lots of money. Scams are kind of self-regulated against being too gigantic to the individuals they are perpetrated against. There are some pretty tragic non-monetary side effects, like taking up all of your money-making energy, trying to recover that which was lost. For some people, the self-regulation doesn't count. They lose their life savings in a single swoop and don't have enough life left in them to be made whole again. People whose families depended on them, and they find themselves out in the streets. If you want to avoid being scammed, it helps to know what scams look like. And it helps to see all the advanced fee fraud scams that exist. My wife lost her ring here, or watch here, or a valuable item here. I have to go, so just give me this small amount and she'll come back and get it later. Right. This is an obvious scam. Don't pay them anything. There's a couple websites that just deal in calling out scammers, and they've categorized all the different kinds of scams. Be knowledgeable about the many ways to be scammed. SciVive would say you should focus more on being productive than you should focus on not being scammed. The useful advice is reversed the older you become, or if the one-time nature of your current wealth is the result of perhaps a court settlement, divorce, or sale of a company you have a non-compete with, or you're just older than you are young. If you currently have much more than you'd ever be able to make back, definitely focus more on protecting what you have than trying to grow it. One day, the poor staff will have to do a literal song and dance to get you to buy some new leggings or whatever the sale of the week is. There are so many scams in the in-flight magazine. This week it was a $300 LED light. Really? A piece of plastic with some green and yellow LEDs in it? $300? Says it was tested clinically. There's a star next to the clinically that says tested on 30 volunteers. Wow. Then you've got all these bracelets with magnets in them. $300. Says it helps you sleep and feel better and focus and whatever else you need to hear to pay $300 for a $13 item. It makes you wonder if misleading advertisements and the money they part people with are justified in the same way that people justify the lottery. It is a tax on people that can't do math, and it ruins the lives of nearly all that win it. But somehow it perseveres. Perhaps we feel better thinking that someone was going to part the stupid with their money, so it might as well be for a cause that is kind of good. It is pretty mind-boggling, the mental gymnastics people will do to justify evil acts which only profit them. For instance, taking money from people that are too stupid to keep it makes them have to work harder, and through their hard work, they likely make the world a better place. That's not even very gymnastically inclined, though it might actually be accurate in some cases. One could assume there will be edge cases where someone is already working to capacity or wouldn't be able to afford better production precursors or equipment. SciVive argues that in an ideal world, whatever marketing and leverage and incentives you can use to make the world a better place will probably make the world a better place. If you think playing the lottery is bad for you and it's bad for everyone else, then we probably shouldn't be marketing it with state funds on television. Perhaps an advertisement for eating healthy, which, if effective, would lead to reductions in healthcare spending for the state and increases in happiness and healthiness. It wouldn't be surprising if more fit people led to more children being born, because fit people are attractive, and being attractive can cause attraction, which causes proximity, which causes love, and all the nice tricycle motors that go with it. Most of what is advertised to you is a scam. In the world of competition for your eyeballs, the people that give you the best deal can't afford to be seen, and the people that screw you the hardest can afford to pay for your attention. Hedge funds weren't even allowed to advertise to you until 2013, but the scams have always found a way. If it reached out to you more than you reached out to it, then it's more likely to be a scam. And there's an art to making you believe that you, and not they, did the reaching out. There's a fool at every table, and if you don't know who that fool is, then you're the fool. When you're betting, buying, selling, or even working with other people, it really helps to know who the fool is. The tragedy of scammers and conmen. Scammers are often charming, intelligent, motivated people. When their victims discover they have been scammed, they'd like to get their money back if they can. If the inventive and adventurous scammers spent less time figuring out new ways to victimize people and put their skills towards honest work, both they and their victims would find more profit in it. The first quality you should care about when hiring someone is their honesty. Then their ability comes second. If someone that worked with you wanted to steal from you, you prefer they be ineffective. Thus, ethics comes before ability. Scam tactics. Someone had to come up with a term for this whole idea of, I'm going to promise you a lot in the future, just give me this now. I'm going to promise you eternal life, just say a little bit of prayers. I'm going to promise you eternal life and ecstasy that lasts forever, just don't eat any pork. These promises could indicate that religion is a scam. Does that seem like a fair deal? Would anyone not accept that? If that were reality, and you get eternal life, and you just have to not eat pork, one would cut pork off the entire human menu. But that's the problem with advanced fee fraud. You don't know anyone who's ever gotten the reward. They never come back and tell you about it. You never see a video. You never hear audio because it never happens. They want you to pay now, thinking that you're investing in your future, but in reality, the future you're investing in is theirs, and the future you're sacrificing is your own. Churches and tithing. The hypocrisy of giving money to God. It really goes to the people running the church or cult, and hoping he invests it for you, and gives you back more because he needs your money. Church scams are just an advanced fee fraud, at least the ones that tell you you'll make more money in return if you send them money. Finding marks and dupes. Sometimes what seems stupid is actually pretty smart. Scam emails are written in terrible fashion because they only want less intelligent people to respond. They don't have time to field time-waster phone calls. They evolved to be worse in order to scam better. What people name their businesses tells you more about the person naming it than it does the actual business strategy or product. Business names tell you more about what the person in charge of the name had in their mind space than they tell you anything about the business. If you are at a website that has the word millionaire in it, you for sure aren't going to be talking to any millionaires. Basically, you're just going to be scammed. Penny stocks, binary options, gold, FX, Ponzi schemes, HYIP, you name it, it's a scam. Don't get robbed. One of the better outcomes of this digitized world is better cooperation. Now, if you let someone rob you, you have not only turned them into a bigger crook, because you offered them such great profit, you also lost money and a friend, or money and a relationship. It's just all around bad. Pyramid schemes. Don't fall for MLMs, multi-level marketing schemes, get rich quick schemes, Ponzi schemes, or any other of the stupid schemes. Buying jewelry and speakers from the backs of trucks and in parking lots. People do both of these all the time. The speakers are never good, and the gold usually turns out to be fake. MLMs are the maximum number of middlemen and the minimum number of useful employees. If you've heard of an item, but for some reason you can't buy it in any stores, even though it's not expensive, then you are likely looking at a pyramid scheme or a niche item. Items that are affordable and useful find their way onto shelves in normal stores, just like soap and bread. They're not hard to find, and they have the minimum number of middlemen. No one will spend time convincing you to come to their bread sales hype seminar to buy your bread reseller package, because it's already an efficient market. All you would be doing is jacking up prices to the end users and getting in between them and the manufacturers. Get the best work done. If minions do all the work on your account, only minion quality labor will appear. Why not hire the minion in-house and save the middleman fee his boss is charging? If they make more money when you have a problem, they are more likely to subconsciously or purposely allow problems to occur for you that you can pay them to fix. This is true of the upsellers of the auto mechanic franchises. You may go in for an oil change and they discover 10 other issues that need to be repaired. You leave with a receipt of worthless labor totaling a few $100s or more. Real estate agents. As another example, real estate agents make more money the higher the house sells for. Why would a real estate agent want to make less on the deal by getting you a better price for the chance you establish a long-term business relationship and purchase other houses to become a repeat client? How many houses are you buying anyway? Real estate agents should be obsolete by now. Lawyers. Lawyers love troublesome clients. The more trouble you get in, the more money they make. Lawyers are people to whom you give your fortune in order to prevent someone else from getting it. You could say that their business is based on people trying to counter unlawful or immoral thievery. Accountants. Accountants. Their first mission is to cover their ass, then maybe save you money, maybe. One may sometimes find dark patterns in their tactics. Giving money back to the client guarantees retention of the client. If the accountant runs into some unexplained good fortune, such as a shiny new Mercedes, he or she might claim that the income came from other investments. Don Laper, suicide in prison. Donald D. Laper was an American multi-level marketing and infomercial salesman. His work involved product packages such as the greatest vitamin in the world and making money secrets. Laper was criticized for selling fraudulent business plans that did not work for his clients. A grand jury indicted Laper in June of 2011 on 41 counts of conspiracy, mail fraud, wire fraud, and promotional money laundering through his company, the greatest vitamin in the world. The company's customers spent nearly $51.8 million to sell vitamins and recruit others to do the same. But only 5,000 people received about $6.4 million in commission, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. Meanwhile, labor reaped at least $2 million from 2004 to 2007. Kevin Trudeau. Kevin Mark Trudeau was an American fraudster, author, salesman, and pool enthusiast, known for promotion of his books and resulting legal cases involving the Federal Trade Commission, FTC. His ubiquitous late-night infomercials, which promoted unsubstantiated health, diet, and financial advice, earned him a fortune, but eventually resulted in civil and criminal penalties for fraud, larceny, and contempt of court. In November 2013, Trudeau was convicted of criminal contempt and was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison and a $37.6 million fine. Trudeau left federal custody on January 18, 2022. There are many, many more, just like them. Investing. Getting rich on low returns takes too long. To get rich is a pretty stupid idea the way it's normally suggested. You have to continually, nearly forever, never take money out of your account to experience the real-world benefits of being rich by being able to actually spend money on what you want. Then one day, after your life is nearly over, you finally get to be rich because you deprived yourself so long. That's not a good way to get rich at all. Living like a poor person forever, trying to make the compounding interest make up for your low rates of return. There was once a guide on how to get rich, saving money by foraging for food and hunting. That's a pretty funny suggestion to try and use if you live in a big city, because you'd have to forage in garbage cans. Business beats speculation. Why would you put $100,000 into Bitcoin when you could put $100,000 into a business that could capture even more value? If you speculate in Bitcoin, you have to wait for it to go up. Let's phrase this in a better way for you. Ready? If you create a business for $100K, and in the first year it generates $100K of revenue and nets $30K after costs, you can sell that business for 3 times net, easy. No problems at all. Why? Because there is money out there that desperately needs a home. And if you can pay $99K, 3 years of net, and make 33% a year return on investment, then who would turn down a 33% per year return on investment? Banks offer what? 0% or -%? Make a business, any business, and you'll get to make all the future money that the business hasn't even made yet. This is the principle of making future money that doesn't even exist yet. You can make 10 years of money in 3 years, easy. If you look at the multiples that publicly traded companies are looking at, you could possibly get a 20 times earnings exit. Hence, you have 2 options. Work and wait for the business to make the money, and then you have your profit. Or you can sell it for money that it has never and may never even make, and then go do it again, and again, and again. So you could make hundreds of years of business profit in a few years. You can't do that by just speculating. Stocks. Here is some investment advice from the best investor who's ever lived, Warren Buffett. These are the instructions in his will. My money, I should add, is where my mouth is. What I advise here is essentially identical to certain instructions I've laid out in my will. One bequest provides that cash will be delivered to a trustee for my wife's benefit. I have to use cash for individual bequests because all of my Berkshire shares will be fully distributed to certain philanthropic organizations over the 10 years following the closing of my estate. My advice to the trustee could not be more simple. Put 10% of the cash in short-term government bonds and 90% in a very low-cost S&P 500 index fund. I suggest Vanguard's. I believe the trust's long-term results from this policy will be superior to those attained by most investors, whether pension funds, institutions, or individuals who employ high-fee managers. 2013 Berkshire Hathaway Annual Letter. If Warren Buffett's wealth has closely tracked the value of Berkshire Hathaway, then anyone in the world with access to the US stock market could have bought Berkshire Hathaway stock and made exactly the same return on investment as Buffett did without doing any work. That's pretty insane. He made 94% of his wealth after turning 60 years of age. Tickers: BRK-A, IBB, SPY, GLD, AAPL. Berkshire Hathaway is insanely good, and recently biotech is even better. Perhaps Berkshire/S&P 500 for anti-volatility and safety. Then overage gets put into IBB. Take advice from Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett and Sam Walton both drove ordinary cars and didn't like wasting money on themselves. So the thesis is that one lifestyle design is a different form of excellence than business design. Just because you have more money than someone else doesn't mean you have better assets or more time for a higher quality of life. If that's the case, and it's likely that you're going to get similar performance, then you should probably be careful on how many risks you're willing to take to get something that doesn't pay what you thought it paid. Psychology. If you like to always have increases and rarely drawdowns, great ideal, then your stock choices should be selected for not having drawdowns over any period longer than a couple of your sampling rates, or even a single sampling rate. It's easy enough to just set a reference point sometime far in the past, and then you're almost always up. But that trick may not always, or ever, work. Long versus short. It's a little bit confusing, but this is part of the reason why people like to be long stocks instead of short stocks. Because the short stock can't go below 0, but it can keep going up. 10x, 10x, over and over again. Entities generating returns. For the sake of knowing, is there any other entity out there trying to generate returns on investment? Like a fund, so to speak? Other than the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Norway that does so with a mission focus. We focus on companies that do this type of good in the world. SciVive would love to discover those people and find out how they were able to create, sustain, and hopefully get results in this world. Global asset allocation. Would you rather Google have more cash to do things, or that your neighbor Bob can buy more beer? To some degree, it's better for the world that Bob drinks less beer, and some companies have more money. On the whole, the amount of useless crap that gets done so vastly outpaces good progress that it's probably still not a good idea for Bob to have to pay more taxes or be deprived the fruits of his labor because some megacorp can afford millions in consulting fees to create or discover the newest loophole du jour. Trailing indicator. Do you know the story that tells you that your income is the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with? That's some correlation causation crap right there. That's a trailing indicator. When your income increases, your friends just change. It's not the other way around. It's not like your friends changed and then your income changed. Everything doesn't go that direction. Taxes. As the saying goes, only 2 things in life are guaranteed: death and taxes. Well, it's not really true. Ingvar Kamprad started IKEA. He owns most of IKEA through INGKA Holding and Stitching INGKA Foundation. He took his share of IKEA, put it in a trust, and the trust pays no taxes, so he basically pays no taxes. Rich people do this all the time. They either move to a country where there is no tax on worldwide income or no capital gains tax. The concept that you'll always pay tax is a little overblown if you are a member of the capital class. Even if you do pay taxes, you get a 50% discount. If you make $1 million working a job, you are, depending on the country of course, going to pay over 35%. If you make the same $1 million as appreciation on a property or stock that you haven't sold, you pay 0% tax. Yes, you read it right, 0%. You only pay a tax when it gets sold, and you never have to sell it. You can often take a loan against it or trade it for something of like kind. This keeps the amount of tax that you pay at a very low rate compared to the poor bastards that actually have to work for a living. There is no life. There is only time. If you save a man's life, you have only bought him some time. Let's say, magically, that you're lucky enough to have property and capital goods that generate revenue and, therefore, have capital gains. Let's say you're lucky enough to be in that class, or fought your way up through the working class. If you are to fight your way through the working class to save up enough capital to become a member of the capital class, you still have to play the game hard because they're coming for what you own. You accidentally run into somebody with your car. Despite it being an accident, you're found civilly guilty and you lose all your money. Your kid allows a friend to sell some drugs out of your house. Civil forfeiture can be claimed and you lose your house. You didn't do anything wrong. Your kid's friend did something illegal. Oh well, you lose your house. You're driving to buy a car. You go to the bank, you take out cash. You drive to buy the car, you get pulled over. They see the cash. They take the cash. They charge you cash for the crime. Now you have to get a lawyer and beg and plead explaining that was actually your money and your money didn't commit a crime, so please give it back. This is a multi-billion-dollar business. More money is seized from civil forfeiture and asset seizure in the United States than is stolen by criminals in robberies. Beware of the government. The likelihood of you getting killed in America by a cop is 5 to 10 times higher than you getting killed by a terrorist. The likelihood that your assets get seized by the government is higher than someone actually robbing you. The old days of the enemy being the non-government, for some people, it's much more likely the government's coming to get them. If you were actually committing crimes, that number should increase, if law enforcement's working well. Even if you're not a criminal, you are more likely to be killed by a cop than a terrorist, period. There's lots of cops with guns, and lots of interaction and catalysts to allow those things to occur. And there's just not enough terrorists to go around. It's a numbers thing. The intentions are probably 1,000,000 times worse on the side of a terrorist, but the sheer numbers are against you. Keep your assets in a trust. Maybe you should want to defend your assets, and you don't want to pay a death tax. You've been taxed on all that before. Let's say you worked, made your million, paid your $350,000, and are left with $650,000. So you bought a house. Now you sell the house, and you get taxed again. You get double taxed. That's not fun. So what's the trick? The trick is to not own your house. You let a trust own your house. Then the trust doesn't die. The trust doesn't pay an estate tax. You become civilly liable for some stupid act your kids did, or for some civil forfeiture, or for some running a person over, or whatever the problem is. The trust didn't run anybody over. That's the reason O.J. Simpson could kill a bunch of people, be found civilly liable, financially liable, and still live the life of a millionaire, because his trust didn't kill anybody, and his trust has the money. Then when he dies, his trust will give his kids the money. No estate, no death tax. Let's imagine that you had a house, and you gave it to one kid, and then that kid gave it to somebody else, and then that kid gave it to somebody else. The government takes a cut every single time. Now let's imagine you have a trust. The trust lets one person live there, and then another person, and then another person. No taxes, no fees, no transactional costs. Just upkeep cost. You need to pay the trustees, and you need to pay to set it up. You also need to choose a jurisdiction that is run by the rule of law. Apparently, Bermuda's great, because that's where all the insurance companies have their billions of dollars. So it's good enough for them, assuming that the insurance laws that cover that formation are similar in well-covering family trusts. There might be 4 or 5 kinds of trusts. You should be as well protected. The magic here is get out of the working class and into the capital class. And then get out of the capital class and into the trust-using, estate planning, get loans against your profits instead of getting dividends class. At that point, you basically can't have your wealth taken from you, and you never get taxed, and the money that you didn't get taxed on grows faster and larger until the point where maybe you're in the 1%. You get to help decide who gets to be president, and you get to help decide foreign policy. You get to help decide what's on curriculum in schools. You can afford to create those things now. You can join either side of whatever insane argument you're on. All types of insane arguments. You've got to be a pretty advanced thinking person to understand why that's actually good. If you're not an advanced thinking person, you have to say, hey, these people are saying bad things. I don't like that. Let's beat them up however we can. Let's make it illegal. That's your retaliatory response. Oh, this guy committed a crime? Kill him. Then you realize that path has been tried. It didn't work out that well. And what we have today, not just killing anyone that commits an offense, is better. We have already used Hammurabi's eye for an eye, and it worked until Gandhi famously said, an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. In summary, you wouldn't have a chance to understand why it was better unless you had been aware of the fact the other ways had been tried before. Debtors' prisons have been tried before, right? Not separating church and state has been tried before. It didn't work out that great. Not having a representative as a member of a nation, like taxation without representation, it's not as good as what the Americans did. Representative democracy is useful. So is class war. Get out of the working class, get into the capital class, and then get out of the capital class and into the 1%ers. Trust funds, asset planning, loans instead of distributions. Percentages. You could always use percentages, but you'll find that it's hard. The only two things you can think of that you can pay in percentages are taxes and divorces. That's about it. It's often much better to look at things in flat rate terms because you can buy and sell things for flat rate prices. What is a percentage anyway? It compares a thing with some other thing. Let's say you want to look at how many dollars you made last year at work. Let's say you made $50,000 and wanted to look at your dollars as some percentage instead. What shall you compare these dollars to? How much you could have made? Or how much you made last year? What can you do with that percentage? You could try to show your boss that he was under or overpaying you based on what other people were reporting their annual raises were in percentage terms. However, if you were going to go to them for that data anyway, wouldn't it have been just as useful to use the hard figure of what they were getting paid now that you weren't? Wouldn't that real number figure that would have to come out of the company's real number bank account mean more to the person saying yes or no to your request for a raise? Or since we're in fantasy land, a pay cut? Percentages can be useful, but more often than not, they can be misleading. Beware of the unqualified percentage. XYZ did P% in T time. From what to what? What was going on before and after T time? Were you delaying sales bookings? Were you taking on debt? Were you buying sales at negative profit? Were you spending $2 to buy $1 of sales? That cherry picking of times is a fun one. Economic systems and productivity. In countries that have fluid and adventurous credit systems, the upside is that everything goes faster, is stronger, and better. The downside is that you have misinvestment and malinvestment into things that you shouldn't have. It's an art. How do you maintain people kicking ass and staying at a 5% unemployment rate, which is amazing? If you had a family on an island and you tried to get 95% of your family to kick ass 5 out of 7 days a week, it wouldn't happen. It's nearly a miracle that the economic systems of the planet are able to extract such insane productivity out of the workforces. Because if the assets that are in the world were even close to what you would call evenly distributed, lots of people would opt for more free time. There's a funny saying that if you get a day off work, it's great. If you get 2 days off work, it's great. If you have a long weekend, it's great. 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as an off day, that's awesome. But if you have a second off day, if Tuesday is off, you stop being a human being. You forget how to wake up. You forget how to shower. You're no longer an effective member of society. You just, on that 4th day, are eating chips and watching the game. It's crazy how that's the tipping point for some people.